Zandvoort in the Netherlands plays host to the third round of the 2014 Blancpain Sprint Series. The undulating circuit just on the coast outside of Amsterdam is a real old-school racers circuit, much like the previous track we were at, Brands Hatch, where we had a fantastic weekend of racing. It was the Grasser Racing Lamborghini of Harry Procek on pole position, and he held the lead going into the first corner despite the attentions of Max Buch in the HTP Mercedes behind. Matej Stumpf managed to go around the outside of his BMW Team Brazil teammate and up into third position. A great start from him as the BMWs were looking strong. Max Buch was going to put the race-leading Lamborghini under all sorts of pressure, but there was chaos up at Druids. A collision between Stef Dusseldorp and Stefan Racina forced the Mercedes out of the race. This was Zanardi's view of the incident. He dived through on the inside to take two positions. Aman Ibrahim was sent spinning, possibly through contact with David Fuminelli, who would then lose out to his teammate Zanardi. Zanardi was fighting back, having had to start right at the back of the grid, and he was making up positions left, right and centre. Racina and Nicky Melnhoff then ended up in the gravel trap, both of them ending their races. But the pressure up front was building on Harry Procek. The pit stop windows came, Max Buch got out and handed over to Max Goetz in the chasing Mercedes, but Jeroen Bleekemolen was still in the lead of the race. Valdeno Brito was briefly second in the BMW Team Brazil car, but he later had to serve a drive-through penalty. Caca Bueno and Sergio Jimenez then ultimately emerged into what would be third position, right behind the Mercedes of Max Goetz. There was a disaster for the Bitec racing team. The McLarens performing much stronger in Brands Hatch, but Fabio Annidi and Giorgio Pantano's race was ended by losing a left rear wheel. But the race win was taken by Harry Procek and Jeroen Bleekemolen. A wonderful performance for the small Grasser Racing team from Austria. They were over the moon with their victory, and it moved them up into second place in the championship. Caca Bueno and Sergio Jimenez took BMW Team Brazil's first podium of the season. Buch and Goetz still lead the championship, but it was all about the Grasser Racing team at Brands. In Nogaro at the opening round, Stefan Rotelli was joined in the number 3 car by Gregory Gilbert. They had a strong weekend, but that meant that Brands Hatch was Roman Rusinov's first appearance of the season in the Blancpain Sprint Series. The weekend though didn't go quite according to plan. Problems in the first race set them back, and Rusinov is confident they can get back towards the front of the order here in Zandvoort.
Yeah, I think, Brands Hatch we had a crash in the beginning of the first race, so then for the start of the second race, so it's quite difficult. So here we have a P4 on the pre-practice. I hope the Audi will be good on this track. The car is fast, and I hope we can do a good result.
It was a stunning weekend in Brands Hatch for Jeroen Bleekemolen and Harry Procek. A win in the qualifying race and a win in the main race as well. And if that wasn't ominous enough for their opposition, they're coming into Jeroen Bleekemolen's home race, somewhere he has an awful lot of experience and should be very strong.
The competition is always fantastic, but also very hard. But of course, coming off a weekend like that, going into this track, my home track, it's a good sign for sure. I have a lot of experience here. I've raced here so many times, and I've been successful many times here as well. So yeah, hopefully it'll help a bit. It's a tough track, very challenging, and it should be a really good track for us.
After a torrid opening round of the season, Bitec were back on form in Brands Hatch. Fabio Annidi and Giorgio Pantano had a stunning first race and then were robbed of a good points finish in race 2 after losing their left rear wheel. Meanwhile, Sten Pentus and Daniel Lloyd continued their learning process in the sister car.
I raced here before 2004, so it's 10 years ago in Formula BMW. I didn't remember that how bumpy it really is. If you make a mistake, you are just destroying the car. There's no many safety areas, so I enjoy. I really like the circuit. I'm not aiming the position. As long as it's step forward, I'm happy.
Max Buch and Max Goetz still lead the championship for HTP, but it was the sister car that was victorious here last year. Sergei Afanasiev and Andreas Simonsen were teammates then. This year, Afanasiev's teammate is local hero Stef Dusseldorp. He hasn't raced at the circuit for a while, but he hopes that won't hinder his chances.
It's my home race, but the last time I've driven here was in the Zandvoort Masters in 2010. I think last year the team did really well. They won even the main race. Race pace should be very good. I've got a lot of support from all the Dutch people. I've got some sponsors, family, friends coming on Sunday, so I hope to give them a nice podium at the end.
With Andrea Montemini away on other racing duties this weekend, Philippe Salaquada will be joined by Italian Alessandro Balzan in the Scuderia Villorba Corsa car. The two only met this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how their relationship develops as Balzan makes his Blancpain Sprint Series debut.
I'm really proud to be here. It's a great weekend. Let's take a walk in the middle of the paddock with all the guys and the other competitors, staff and drivers. The track is not perfect for our cars, but we have quite a lot of room where we can improve. So I'm thinking I will be happy with my top 5 finish. I'm happy to be here and proud that Scuderia Villorba give me this chance.
German outfit Tonino Team Herbert make their Blancpain Sprint Series debut with a Porsche 997. They've got a German driver, Robert Renauer, but also a Dutchman. Jaap van Lagen is an experienced racer in both Porsche Super Cup and the German Porsche Carrera Cup, and has already won a GT race here this season, so he's confident about the weekend to come.
I'm really looking forward because it's my home track. Many people will come for the Dutch drivers, of course. My first time in this Blancpain series, so yeah, it's really good to be here, and hopefully we can put a good result on this track.
Another new entrant for the rest of the season is the BMW Sports Trophy Team Schubert squad with a BMW Z4. Youngster Thomas Jaeger will be experiencing his first ever GT race this weekend, so it'll be a steep learning curve for the Austrian, and alongside him is young but experienced racer Dominic Baumann. He's making his return to the series, having raced with Grasser last year.
From my experience last year, I know it is a great championship, and we tried to do the Silver Cup, but now I'm gold categorization. It's a little bit bad, but that's how it is, and now we decided to come back with a new team, and yeah, it's nice to be back, and we will see how it works in the races.
Despite being away from home during the World Cup, the Brazilians have still brought some football flair to Zandvoort. It's a damp-ish track that greets the drivers ahead of the qualifying race here in Zandvoort, and the Blancpain Sprint Series is about to get underway. The track, as I say, drying. It's you can see there from that camera angle, certain parts of the circuit are still pretty wet, certain parts are pretty dry. The temperature is just 19.6 degrees, a patch on what we had yesterday where we had absolutely scorching conditions. So nevertheless, it's going to be a great race with the challenges that both the tyres are going to face, and also this Zandvoort circuit is going to face, because John Watson, who's alongside me in the commentary box, this is a classic circuit.
Yeah, Zandvoort, one of the favourite racetracks around the world that I've visited. There we see the layout. It's 4.3 kilometres in length, 14 corners, some of which are given corner numbers, others are famous names such as Hugenholz and obviously the Tarzan hairpin. Thing I'm curious about is we've got a Tarzan hairpin, but where's our Jane Bend?
I don't know. I didn't name the circuit. We've also got the Arie Luijendijk corner, the Hans Ernst Bosch as well. But there we can see the cars lining up on the grid, and we go for a little look down the grid. On pole position there on the left-hand side is Jeroen Bleekemolen, the Dutchman. Alongside him on the front row of the grid will be Laurens Vanthoor. Then we've got another Dutchman there on the left-hand side. That is Peter Cox. He'll be alongside René Rast on the second row of the grid. There's our championship leaders there on the left. That is the 84 car, which will be started by Maximilian Buch. And then you can see the BMW Brazil cars. There's one of our, well, both of our new entrants actually are right together on the sixth row of the grid. The Team Herbert car on the left, the Team Schubert car on the right. We'll discuss more about them as the race progresses. And then at the back of the grid should be the number 3 G-Drive Racing Audi of Roman Rusinov and Stefan Otelli, but they haven't actually made it to the grid. They were working on the car an awful lot in the paddock, but don't seem to have been able to fix it. So we'll have a look. Maybe they'll start from the pit lane, but we think that most of the cars are going to be on slicks, John. And certainly when I was down in the pit lane a few moments ago, they were thinking slicks was going to be the way forward.
I mean, looking at the track, as much as we can see what would be loosely described as the racing line, is pretty much a slick line, but obviously there are bits of the racetrack there you see just coming out of the tires and in the background through the little kink to the right and then leading into the Hook and Holtz hairpin bend. There are patches of water, and some of it is actually right across the track. Here we now coming into the area of the racetrack that leads into the dunes, again just slightly offline, a big damp patch, and at the early part of a race when cars are very close together, you don't want to get anywhere near that on slicks, because all it takes is one little move and it can set off a concertina sort of situation.
So it's the Dutchman Jeroen Bleekemolen on pole position in his Lamborghini. Alongside him, the Belgian Laurens Vanthoor. Then we have another Dutchman, Peter Cox, will start third in his Lamborghini. René Rast alongside him. So 2 Lamborghinis and 2 Audis on the front 2 rows. Then we have the first Mercedes, Maximilian Buch alongside him. The best qualifying performance so far this season for Scuderia Valorba Corsa. It'll be Alessandro Balzan starting that car. Winkelhock and Jimenez will line up in 7th and 8th position, followed by Basseng and Piquet Jr. Piquet Jr. making his return to the series, having missed Brands Hatch. In 11th place, Jaap van Lagen driving the Porsche, the new entry for this weekend, and then Thomas Jaeger alongside him. Vincent Abril was disappointed to only qualify down in 13th place. He's just in front of Stefano Colombo. Stefan Landman there in 15th. Steph Dusseldorp down in 16th position in the car that won here last year. Daniel Lloyd out-qualified Giorgio Pantano, but the McLaren's off the pace. There you can see the Skyflock house that has a beautiful view over the circuit, and the cars are making their way from turn 10 down towards the chicane at turns 11 and 12, the Hans Ernst chicane. A former director of the circuit here at Zandvoort. Here it is. This is definitely an overtaking opportunity. We've seen plenty of action here over the past few years, but it is Jeroen Bleekemolen on pole position, and they are chasing the championship lead. They are only 8 points away from Max Buch and Max Goetz at the top of the championship, and that is because they have already picked up 1 point for taking pole position.
Yeah, everybody's got to be really careful in this opening lap, because tyres are cold, ambient temperature and track temperature are low. Although there's a wind blowing, it'll drive what remains of a damp track away. Nevertheless, the opening lap, caution is the byword I think everybody will be should be thinking about.
Nerves for Harry Procek as he watches on, because his teammate Jeroen Bleekemolen will be starting from pole position. Through the final corner come the cars, waiting for the lights to go out here. It's the 3rd round of the season in the Blancpain Sprint Series. When all the cars are on the straight, the red lights will go out and we'll be racing. There we go! Jeroen Bleekemolen on pole position, floors the throttle, and it's a good start as well from René Rast behind, trying to find a way through in the Audi. In fact, he's managed to find a way to the inside. There's contact! Off goes one of the BMW Team Brazil cars. That's Sergio Jimenez. He keeps it all together just about, but it's Jeroen Bleekemolen who holds the lead of the race, still side by side between the Audis. René Rast looks to the inside, but Vanthoor holds it around the outside. So Vanthoor in 2nd place, Rast in 3rd, Peter Cox 4th, 5th for Max Buch, and 6th for the Ferrari, as they all squeeze around the Hugenholz hairpin and head out towards the dunes.
No prisoners taken whatsoever between Vanthoor and René Rast, and then Basseng looking to come up the inside. But again, this is the problem around Zandvoort. All these corners, long, fast, flowing corners, prevent anybody getting a really clean opportunity to get alongside and take the corner away. Have to wait until they come out of what would be turn 11 to have that run down into the first of the major chicanes at turn 11 and 12.
Thomas Jaeger's made a good start in his first ever GT race. He's gone from 12th up into 9th position, so that's good work from him. As the cars now weave through the left-hander of turn 10. There's Jaap van Lagen in the 21 Team Herbert Porsche. Oh, and run wide there is Peter Cox, and that's going to lose him places. He already loses to the Mercedes, and now here comes the Ferrari trying to go around the outside on the way down into the chicane, and he goes through. So an uncharacteristic moment there for Peter Cox.
We just caught the end of that moment. I don't know whether Peter Cox either was compromised or got tagged coming through turn 10, but clearly he lost ground, and that offered up opportunities for the Ferrari to drive down the inside. Alessandro Balsa in his first run in this car doing a very impressive job.
So there is Peter Cox as they come out onto the start-finish straight to complete the first lap of racing. Bleekemolen leads the way, 0.6 of a second clear ahead of Laurens Vanthoor. In 3rd place it's René Rast. Here's a look towards the inside from Thomas Jaeger. There's going to be a touch there, surely. No, just about. Stump sees him coming, holds the outside line. but Jaeger might still be able to make the move stick because he'll have the inside line for the third corner, and that is good work from the young Austrian. He makes his way past the 30 car, which actually has Nelson Piquet Jr. at the wheel, my apologies, but Jaeger takes the place.
Yes, I mean, positive driving. Both drivers gave one another sufficient working room, but Thomas Jaeger was the driver who was more forceful, and he got track position finally after 3 corners at the end of the straight, and is now pulling, well, marginally ahead of the Brazilian BMW. There is the damaged other car. We saw that contact at the start, coming down into turn 1, contact with the Ferrari, and the right front of the BMW tyre is down, maybe some bodywork damage as well.
Yep, that is a real shame for the car that picked up its first podium last time out at Brands Hatch. A front right wheel change, and they will get Sergio Jimenez back on his way.
Yeah, the hood or the bonnet on the car also slightly dislodged, so hopefully the hinges will hold once the car gets back out on track. So always concerned when you see that gap where there shouldn't be a gap. On the right hand side you can't see it. There's the shut line on the bonnet. On the left hand side, that's pretty normal.
Stefan Ortelli did manage to start the race from the pit lane, so we have got all 20 drivers out there on the circuit, which is great news with 56 minutes still to go. Jeroen Bleekemolen leads. Peter Cox has dropped down to 6th place then after that moment, but there is our race leader Bleekemolen, but Vanthor is going to push him all the way. There's just 0.7 of a second between them as they cross the line that time. René Rast keeping a watching brief in 3rd position. Then in 4th place we've got our championship leaders, Max Book and Max Goetz, and everyone else running reasonably line astern at the moment. Here's a squabble towards the back. This is Stefan Ortelli trying to get past Miguel Toril in the 1 Fortec Mercedes.
Kind of straight, oh, there's the damage to the BMW. You can see what happened when that contact took place, literally a few hundred meters after the start. So well, that's the BMW. The right front was the corner that got tagged against the left side of the Ferrari. In the meantime, Jeroen Bleekemolen going through Skyblock and having clear air. And again, you can see in this camera shot, you only get what, half a tire width offline and you'll be on a damp part of the racetrack. But for Bleekemolen, he's got the choice. He can place the Lamborghini anywhere he likes. Laurens Vanthor is not giving up. He's, I think, been disappointed with some of the performances of late. He knows what he's capable of doing. He loves this circuit and he wants to take the fight to the local Dutchman, Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Ramos and Vanthor are 5th in the championship at the moment, despite qualifying 2nd at Nogaro, winning the qualifying race, then qualifying on pole at Brands Hatch. It just hasn't all come together for them once the races come to a conclusion, basically, as we go on board with Jaap van Lagen in 10th place. He's the next man who will want to try and pass Nelson Piquet Jr. After Thomas Jaeger moved up into 8th position and is already scampering up the road. Good stuff from Thomas Jaeger.
Yes, I mean, he's done a very good job, and he made that very positive overtake on Piquet Jr. Piquet Jr. now coming under threat from Jan van Laap in the Porsche. Porsche should have good straight line speed. That's one of the qualities the car has, but of course he's got to get himself closer to the tail of the BMW to affect any opportunity down into the tires on hairpin. As we see, finally Stefan Ortelli gets up and alongside the Mercedes-Benz. Can he hold the position? He's just about, yes, he's got it. He just was on the right position of the racetrack to dive down the inside and control the corner. And finally, Ortelli has cleared the Mercedes of Miguel Toril. Yeah.
So he's 18.5 seconds off the lead of the race, though. Miguel Toril. There's the other WRT Audi in there, the 4 car of Vincent Abril, running in 16th place at the moment. Stefano Colombo is leading the Silver Cup at present in 12th spot overall. But the fastest, well, Bleekemolen and Vanthor are trading sector times. They both did a 43.9 in the first sector. Vanthor was 0.003 of a second quicker, but in general, it's looking very, very even as Harry Procek watches on in the garage.
Yeah, but I tell you what, Laurens Vanthor is keeping Jeroen Bleekemolen absolutely honest, and that was the cause. You saw the look, almost the stress on the face of Harry Procek, because he knows when he gets into this car and takes over from Jeroen Bleekemolen, he's going to then have to deal with Cesar Ramos, who will be taking over from Laurens Vanthor. He needs the lead that we're currently looking at, just 0.8 of a second when they came across the line on the end of the 3rd lap. It may be roughly the same. He would like that lead to be significantly more, just to give him that little bit of cushion. Down to 0.6 of a second, so Vanthor taking 0.2 of a second out in this last lap.
René Rast is dropping back ever so slightly. On that last lap he lost a couple of tenths to Laurens Vanthoor in front of him. Yeah, Van Lagen now will need to start looking behind because Marc Basseng is right behind him. The contact between the BMW and the Ferrari at the start is under investigation. And, well, let's have a look at it. Here's the replay of the start. It's that yellow BMW there that's on the right-hand side of shot. It gets to the outside, and then is the Ferrari just going to come across?
I think the Ferrari was totally unsighted. The BMW was literally in the blind spot of the mirrors of the Ferrari, and everything, when you're coming down to the Tarzan hairpin, your eye line is focusing to the right. You're not really looking in the left-hand door mirror to see if somebody's sneaking along, particularly at that part of the straight. They might try to go around the top side as you go into Tarzan hairpin, but I think just blindsided on the run into Tarzan.
But it wasn't a particularly dramatic move across from the Ferrari, was it? That was a reasonably racing incident in my book. Oh, there's the replay of Peter Cox losing out, and also here's the replay now of Thomas Jaeger going past Nelson Piquet Jr. He fought his way to the inside line and managed to make the move stick, and these guys are now coming up to lap Sergio Jimenez, who's had to come into the pits to change that tyre.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity both for Bleekemolen and for Vanthoor to make or lose time on one another. It's critical to meet. The BMW is coming back into the pits. Something is not right with it. We did notice that the bonnet on the right-hand side wasn't fully back in its position, but I think there's probably more damage to the right front of the BMW than we maybe realised. It could be a damage to the suspension. Steering arm usually is the suspect, and if the steering is slightly off-centre, then a driver will automatically not be keen to pursue the remaining 51 minutes of this race.
So just to clarify, in the 76 BMW, the Team Schubert car, it is Dominic Baumann who has started that car. They were having troubles with their transponder throughout qualifying, sending us the wrong driver signals, and once again they have got in a bit of a muddle, as into the pits comes the Roll BMW of Stefano Colombo. So that's certainly an unscheduled pit stop, but that makes more sense with it. Dominic Baumann at the wheel. Oh, he's been in the gravel trap. Look at the left rear, and whoa, here he goes.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. That's got to be a left rear of some description. I mean, well, did he clip the tyre barrier? He just might have clipped it with he did the left rear guard and certainly the tyre. What caused that? It's difficult to tell because we just caught it at the point when it was breaking away, but to me that looked like something beyond the driver's control. He may have caught the grass with the left-hand rear by being a little bit too tight. There's the BMW finally has pulled off, and smoke is coming from under the hood and under the bonnet, which is undoubtedly caused by when the bonnet was dislodged fractionally. It's maybe nipped or cut through one of the cooling hoses on the car.
Away goes Colombo. He rejoins the race, and obviously that BMW's come into the pits and stopped again, and then tried to leave the pits again, and that's when it's gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the car actually from the commentary booth coming down the pit lane slowly, and I thought he was going to pull the car off, but it continued just out of eyesight. Clearly had to stop before he got back on track, and the steam that was coming from the bonnet, I would imagine, would have been, as I mentioned, just simply when the car had that contact with the Ferrari, dislodged part of the cooling around the radiators and consequently damaged the bodywork, damaged the hosing.
On board with Jeroen Bleekemolen, the race leader, as meanwhile Stefan Ortelli goes for a pass on Vincent Abril, and Abril won't fight him too hard, and Ortelli takes 15th position away. Next on his list is Giorgio Pantano, and that will be the battle over 14th position. The gap at the front is now up to 0.8 of a second between Bleekemolen and Vanthoor. There is Jeroen. Vanthoor unable to live with him at the moment. René Rast is still just sort of hovering around in third place with Max Buch in fourth. And really, the things we tend to see in the qualifying race is that we set up the race in the first half and then it all goes balmy in the second half, because then you have Harry Procik take over, you have Cesar Ramos take over, Enzo Ede take over, and they have different paces to the ones that their co-drivers do. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires out of all of that. Still then in 5th place, the strongest running of the season so far for the Scuderia Villorba Corsa car of Alessandro Balzan, but Peter Cox, I'm sure, will be very frustrated with what happened to him in the opening lap. He'll be trying to hunt him down, and there was an Audi going very, very wide behind. That was Marcus Fingerlock, but they keep it all together as they come across the line to complete the 7th lap of racing.
Yeah, I mean, the Ferrari Alessandro Balzan doing a very good job, albeit that contact did occur on the opening lap into the tyres on hairpin, but it is a strong showing from the Ferrari 458. We haven't seen much in sprint events of the 458s getting to the front of the field. So let's look, Marcus Winkelhock coming through turns 2 into 3, and then hard on the brakes down into the Hugenholz hairpin bend. John Hugenholz, the designer of this racetrack in I think 1948. What a visionary he was in terms of creating a permanent racetrack that really simulates what used to be very much the character of old-style road racing in Europe.
Here is Bleekemolen. The two of them seem to have stretched actually out over Rast. Yeah, they've taken 0.2 of a second out of him in this first sector alone. And it's now 3 seconds between Bleekemolen, the race leader there, in the 28 Grasser Racing Lamborghini, the car that won both races at Brands Hatch. And it's looking very, very strong again here.
Interestingly, the Lamborghini and the Audi both use the same engine. It's the Audi-based V10 4-valve engine, 5.5 litres. But in the Lamborghini, it's slightly different in terms of probably the packaging about the weight distribution. Lamborghini maybe the slipperier of the two cars, probably fractionally quicker in terms of straight line speed. But the Audi is such an effective weapon, particularly the WRT Belgium Audi club team. They are just so good at making these cars work and getting them onto the podium at the end of a 1-hour race.
And at the end of a 3-hour race as well. They've had some success in the Blancpain Endurance Series. As we see across the line, the gap is up to 1.1 seconds between Bleekemolen and Van Thor. So starting to edge that gap. That's Marcus Winkelhock running in 7th place. We go on board with Vinky. As well, he's had a busy couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, 24-hour races at the Nürburgring, happening to win that. Apparently the car came back in an immaculate condition, barely anything other than just a bit of rubber that had been at, the rubber marks that you get from other cars. So they had a great weekend at Nürburgring, and but looking at him drive, how relaxed he is, you'd almost imagine this is just a normal weekend trip in the Dutch countryside. Not frenetic, not frantic. He'll probably go nuts as soon as I say that, the curse of the commentator.
And here's a nice little battle brewing. It's Jaap van Lagen at the head of it. In the middle of it is Mark Basseng, and then behind is Stef Dusseldorp. And Dusseldorp started well down the order. I asked his teammate Afanasiev if anything went wrong in it went wrong for these guys. Caca Bueno and Sergio Jimenez very unhappy, having had to end their race early. But here's the battle, Jaap van Lagen, Mark Basseng and Stef Dusseldorp. And Dusseldorp's teammate said nothing really went wrong in qualifying. It's just so tight here. The competition is so strong that, if you don't totally nail it, then you'll be in 16th place on the grid.
Yeah, well, two things. One, you've got to nail it. Secondly, you've got to use your tyres productively. You've got to use them tactically. And if you don't get a clear lap when the tyre is new or at its freshest, then you've squandered all the opportunities that exist. Big grey cloud, just I noticed as the cars head down towards the penultimate corner, then the Ari Lyondijk curve which leads onto the straight. Just here, there's a big black cloud drifting. That's where the wind is blowing down the straight. It's dropped off a bit since earlier in the day, but nonetheless, the threat of rain is still in the air, and that's something that teams will be keeping their eye on, just in case we get rain as we did have earlier in the morning.
A little look out from Mark Basseng to try and find a way past Jaap van Lagen. Van Lagen's won races here already in other GT series, but in rainy conditions he took 2 wins. All over 10th place this squabble. Very used to racing Porsches is Jaap van Lagen, the German Porsche Carrera Cup, and races other GT3 spec Porsches. And you can see that Mark Basseng has been very gradually edging in on him.
Yeah, at one stage we thought that the Porsche running in 10th place might be looking at trying to close down the gap to Piquet Jr. and the BMW. Well, that gap has actually now increased. It's up to 2.5 seconds in fact, and the pressure is really coming from behind with Basseng putting pressure onto the Porsche. So that battle for 10th place is a focal point of the race, and Piquet now running fairly clear, but he himself 6.2 seconds behind Dominic Baumann in the sister in another BMW in 8th place.
You can see there the lap times dropping away for Laurens Van Thor. He's lost 0.2 of a second on this lap alone as they come out of the final corner, over the line once more to complete lap 10 of the race. The lights coming on, and the gap is up to 1.458 seconds. Now teams are getting ready in the pits with wet tyres. At the moment, it looks like it's sort of just in case, but you can see a few drops of rain actually on the camera lens down there.
Yeah, and looking skyward as we did a minute or so ago, we saw that big black cloud drifting the direction of the circuit from the Ari Lyondike curve. We don't really see very much in terms of rain spots on the windscreen, but there we do, certainly at Tarzan Hairpin.
Yeah.
That camera facing up the pit straight would be getting it pretty much the earliest of the cameras around the racetrack.
So yeah, there are reports coming in of there being raindrops at Tarzan, and we've just seen that pretty evidently on screen as well. So this is going to get very, very interesting. That was the Grasser Racing team preparing the wet tyres, the team with Jeroen Bleekemolen currently leading the race, and we've still got 12 minutes until the pit stop window opens, and you have to make a pit stop in that pit stop window, whether you've already pitted or not. It doesn't matter. You've got to make a stop and a driver change within that window.
Well, everybody certainly will be just juggling the mathematics to see, if it does rain, is it going to be too risky to stay out, or is it, again, look at this, just Stef Dusseldorf all over the back of Mark Bassang. This battle, the Porsche really holding up the Audi and the Mercedes, and it's up to Dusseldorf. He's got the best opportunity now to get a run down into the very tight sort of right-left chicane down at the bottom of the circuit. The Hans Ernst Bocht. Porsche's got good traction primarily, good acceleration, and again you see Bassang struggling now. Stef Dusseldorf got very close. The mirror, the wipers are now on, and Bassang's car, so you can just begin to see a sheen on the circuit. So the penultimate corner is actually quite slick, and the Audi got caught right, and Dusseldorf is going to go through.
Yep, into the final corner. Dusseldorf finds the inside line, but they're having to creep around there now as they come down the start-finish straight. Look at the rain on the camera lens as they come flashing under over the start-finish straight.
Where are they? I've lost them!
They're in there somewhere, John. Dusseldorf still has the inside line, but trying to get the car stopped in these treacherous conditions is going to be a real challenge, and Dusseldorf goes through then. He takes 11th place away from Mark Bassang. 40 minutes to go, still 10 minutes until the pit stop window opens, and that is Winkelhock who's got past Peter Cox. So Winkelhock is up into 6th place now, past Peter Cox, the Dutchman, and Winkelhock is very, very happy in these conditions. He's about to have the Ferrari as well, up to the inside on the exit of Skyflock, and Winkelhock is starting to fly.
There are just some drivers who've got an intuitiveness in driving in these pretty unpleasant conditions. Every corner you come to, you don't know what you're going to get. And the last time they came through this sequence of corners, the track was probably relatively dry. Now it's wipers on, and now the run down into the chicane. That's where we first really got sight of how difficult the conditions were. It's the far end of the racetrack at the Ari Lyondike curve where the rain is coming from, and it's now sweeping up over the entire circuit. Again, under brakes down into the chicane, just trying to be neat and tidy. Lamborghini going way, way wide, high, trying to find any bite or grip there is on the offline. In these conditions, that's about the best you can expect.
It is now pelting down outside the commentary box window here on the start-finish straight. So this is going to be a real challenge for the drivers, because it's only sort of, well, no, it's not showering, it's chucking it down, but they need to wait 9 minutes in theory before they can come into the pits.
No, it's not quite 9 minutes, it's another 4 minutes, 35 minutes to 25 minutes.
Oh, sorry, yes.
But look at the racetrack. I mean, this is absolutely the worst driver nightmare you can have. The racetrack is now, this end of it, Tarzan Hairpin, but absolutely soaking wet, and you're on slick tires. It's real tippy toes driving. It's sensitivity with the wheel, sensitivity with the throttle and the brakes. Don't do anything aggressive, just, I mean, as gentle as you can be is sometimes too aggressive.
And so Peter Cox, we've seen, has got back past the Ferrari, and all this has allowed Dominic Baumann into the party as well. So Baumann in that Schubert BMW getting really good traction out of the Hugenholz corner, and he's going to breeze past him. They're side by side through the most tricky section of the circuit, and that is good stuff from Dominic Baumann. The Austrian goes through, and that is now 7th place for him, and in the gravel, it was Markus Winkelhock. So Markus Winkelhock, we were saying how confident and strong he was looking. Will that now surely deploy a safety car?
It may be a safety car. Certainly will be a waved yellow flag up the Skyflock corner, which is an on-sighted corner, and you can see what happened. He just came in a little bit too quick, and once the momentum at the rear of the car had gone, there was no recovery. All Markus Winkelhock could hope for is that he could stop and not get too deep into the gravel on the outside of the corner. And he is stuck. Now we've got the yellow flag. Wait to see whether this will be a safety car deployment with just under 3 minutes before the pit lane opens, which will then let everybody breathe, get into the pits and put on wet weather tires. But look at the spray, look at the water coming from the front of the Lamborghini. Leading was 4.5 seconds when they came across the start finishes. He has to stay out. He's just got to live with the conditions. It was 4.5 seconds. The gap has probably doubled, if not tripled, to Van Thor in second place.
Blancpain is driving phenomenally in these conditions. It was 4.5 seconds at the end of the previous lap. It's now 6.7 seconds. Your own Blancpain in a world of his own here. I mean, he must have spent a lot of days going around a wet Zandvoort at this part of the world, but this is really, really impressive stuff. Safety car deployed. The safety car has been deployed here at Zandvoort, and that sort of saves them all, doesn't it? Because they can slow down and they can just wait until it's time to make their pit stop. The safety car is hanging around waiting to pick up race leader Jeroen Blancpain.
Yes, and I suspect the whole circuit will go under a safety yellow flag, and that means there is no overtaking, and it means that essentially, as we see Marcus Winkelhock very disappointed indeed, having done a blinding job when the rain began to fall, but then just getting caught out by being a little bit ambitious on the one hand, and just the change in conditions lap upon lap, it was just too great. So on board, as we watched the second of the Audis making its way around, this is Rene Rast's car there, further through the field, Stefano Telli. But it is extremely difficult, particularly on the slick tires. Bad enough doing it on wet tires, where vision is a big issue, but it's not just the vision, it's the lack of grip, and if you do lose traction or the car begins to slide, it just doesn't stop.
So now the question, well, there's interestingly, there's Daniel Lloyd. He came in, they gambled, they came in to change to wet weather tyres just as the safety car came out, so it's the gamble hasn't worked, unfortunately, for them, because
it may work,
no, because they've got to come in again.
Yeah, but they don't have to come in until 25 minutes. They've got a 10-minute window. They could stay on wet tires, and actually
for the safety car.
But once sorry, you've got to wait for the safety car.
So Blancpain is going really slowly, essentially, so that he can get into the pits when the pit stop window opens.
Well,
and this
21 seconds from the Ariel-Lyondike curve to the pit lane, he's got to almost come to a standstill. In fact, he might be advised to stop for 5 or 10 seconds, and the team will be counting him down. So he would.
Is this okay, John? Is this okay to crawl around the track like this?
There's nothing in the regulations. This window is open. He can come into the pit lane and make his pit stop. So the team have done a very good job in telling him what to do. The gap you can see now between first and second is just the gap between 3-4 car lengths. And it'll be a battle in the pit lane between the crews with the driver change, the wheel and tyre change, and there will be clearly a change from slick tyres onto the full wet tyre. There's the Lamborghini being jacked up, and in gets Harry Project. Jeroen Blancpain has done a truly blinding job in very blinding conditions, to be honest. The last 2 or 3 laps, conditions were as atrocious as you could ever wish to get.
So into the pits they all come. And now it is, as you say, John, just a simple pit stop race. That's all it comes down to. Who will get out quickest? See, look at that. Project has to wait for the cars coming in.
He's okay,
and he just about gets out of it, but who's going to come out in front of him? That's the biggest question. Here comes Project. Is he going to hold on to the lead of the race? Yes, he is, just about. WRT all the way back there. That's worked out well for Grasser Lamborghini. In second place, look, here comes the Mercedes. Max Buch and Max Goetz jump up into second place. It's third position for Peter Cox and Stefan Racina. Fourth place for Enzo Eid now in the car he's taken over from Rene Rast. So what happened to Laurens Van Thor and Cesar Ramos in all of that? They're still in the pit lane. They must have had a problem, and they have dropped right back down the order. There they are, coming out now. That's a catastrophe for the number 1 WRT car.
Well, you didn't get to see why they lost so much time in the pit lane, and we can see that it's chaos because, quite simply, the entire field have all come in at one time, and I don't know whether they've had to back up one or other of the team cars. It may be simply there just wasn't the opportunity to do 2 cars at the same time. But how there was a switch around because the Van Thor car was ahead of the Rene Rast car, and it came out ahead with Enzo Eid in effect now be second, and for the Lawrence Van Thor car with Cesar Ramos, well, they're going to be very much towards the tail of the field.
But now we're going to have the situation where there's this field of cars running around and the safety car has got to pick them up. Well, the safety car will be coming in this lap, but where even is the safety car related to the cars on track? Because the safety car couldn't just wait at the exit of the pit lane to pick up the first car to come out of the pit lane. And here's Winkelhock. So
yeah, he was running around the outside of the corner looking for grip and just found the white line, and once you hit the white line, the painted white line, extremely slippery in wet weather conditions, and the back end of the car just broke away and it just dragged him literally into the gravel, buried the rear of the car, and that was it all over for Martin Winkelhock.
So they're now going around behind the safety car, but the safety car will be in this lap, and is there even a physical safety car? All sorts of questions to be answered here. Everyone at least has made their pit stop, and well, we've lost Steph Dusseldorp as well from this race. I don't remember catching that. Forgive me if I've just got a short memory. But
well, he's being shown as dropped down to 19th place. Yeah. In other words, he would be in the last in this race.
But interestingly, we've also got Stefan Landman, who is now at the head of this safety car train, essentially. And will he come into the pits to do his driver change? Because he hasn't done so yet. So we're going to see two Grasser Racing cars in first and second place, but one of them is a lap down as the race, in theory, gets back underway. Yeah, there's the safety car. In it pulls, and away we go. And look at that, immediately Stefan Rosina is on the attack, trying to get past Max Coates as they come down towards the first corner. He's got the inside line. They almost touch a little bit. Now, where on earth do you brake for Tarzan? That's the big question. They've all just about made it through. Harry Procek in the lead of the race. The challenge is still going for second place. They were going side by side out of Tarzan, and Gotts is trying to get back up past Rosina, but Rosina holds second position. Gotts in third. Fourth now for Cesar Ramos. It's fifth for Felipe Salaquada. Sixth place. It's side by side between Thomas Jaeger and Matthias Stumpf, and Jaeger goes through. Nicely done, the young Austrian.
Yeah, very impressive driver. Just used again. Good bite and traction off the Tarzan hairpin. But this is a battle really, watching Rosina and Max Coates. They're going at it hammer and tongue as they come up into Sky Flock. And Rosina running the wide way round the corner, goes right on the tail, almost the front of the Mercedes, touching the back, looks up the inside into turn 10, gets up inside, but can he maintain it because the momentum is still with the Lamborghini, but the Mercedes has got track position as they go into turn 11, and that's ultimately going to be the key to this battle for second place.
Really good fight between Gotts and Rosina, but up in front it's still Harry Procek leading the way, and interestingly they've switched around the running order, but in the Gotts and Boot car, because usually, well, in Brands Hatch it was Boot that was fighting with Procek, but now we're going to see Gotts fighting with Procek as we go on board with Matthias Stumpf. To the right there is Thomas Jaeger as we come down, under braking for the Hans Ernst chicane. Jaeger holds the position in the battle of the BMWs. In fact, it's the battle to be the highest up BMW. In fifth place at the moment, this squabble is over. Just in front of them is Enzo Eid in the Audi. So these top 7 are all separated by just 2.1 seconds as they crossed the line last time. Obviously that was after the safety car conditions, but this time around Procek has a 1 second lead over Max Gotts in second place. This is the battle though, as Stumpf desperately tries to pass Baumann.
Yeah, difficulty he has is actually seeing where he is. He's having to look out of the windows on either side, not really through the windscreen, just to get his braking reference points. And of course into Tarzan, it's fairly wide, the entrance, so you can go high and you can stay high, and in effect that's what he's been trying to do with Thomas Jaeger all the way from the Tarzan hairpin. We saw Jaeger being very effective on the exit coming out of Hugenholz. Now it's the other way around. He's found himself slightly compromised on the run up the hill through the right hand curve, side by side, then back to the left. So the Brazilian BMW, but can Jaeger? No, he's been cut off deliberately, and that was a fairly forceful move, but a fair move. There was ample room given, and Thomas Jaeger just had to get out of the throttle a little bit earlier. So the Brazilian BMW moves on. Max Stumpf he's just about consolidated, if you wish, that 6th place.
Yeah, Felipe Salaquada got back. Felipe Salaquada got past both of them during that squabble, which I didn't pick up on, but Salaquada is now 5th place, then 6th place for Stumpf, 7th place for Thomas Jaeger. But the big news is going to be up at the front. Max Gotts surely will start to close in on Harry Procek now. Oh no, actually he's lost half a second in the first 2 sectors, so Harry Procek doing a really good job up at the front in that Lamborghini. the Grasser racing car. Project impressed everyone, I think, at Brands Hatch, because he is very much, well, not an am, because he started racing in the mid-90s. He went to his bank, he got a loan, fingers crossed for the Grasser team. He went to the bank, he got a loan in the mid-90s and started doing some Formula. Oh, that won't help him, driving on the grass.
And those are the little details you've got to be ever so careful of. The grass will now be wet, and you put a wheel on the rear tire, spins up, that can just literally rotate the car 90 degrees. So all little concentrations that are so essential in these conditions, above and beyond what you would do in the dry. Harry Project has got to be focused and not let the pressure from behind. Whatever's going to happen with Maximilian Götz, if he's going to pass you, he'll pass you. But don't put yourself into jeopardy. Look again.
Wow. Stump really struggling to get that car stopped. Yeah, but as they all now start to queue up behind Enzo Ede in the 4th place Audi.
So Stumpf pushing the Ferrari Salaquada, and Enzo Ede going to be the beneficiary or the victim, whichever way you choose to think about these things. Under pressure, 3 cars behind, potentially capable of running quicker, but they've got to make the pass. Gap was 1.6 seconds leader to 2nd place. Harry Project ahead of Maximilian Götz through turn 10 into turn 11. Long, very late apex into turn 11. In fact, you sometimes don't even make the apex, and then a short sprint up to turn 12. From here on downhill to the chicane. Very, very slippery, that part of a racetrack in these conditions. I drove it once many years ago, and I thought, was I on a racetrack or was I on a skating rink? Literally, it's that slippery.
The gap has come down by a couple of tenths so far this lap between Project and Götz. 1.6 seconds it was as they crossed the line that last time. There's some supporters of Laurens Vanthoor in the pit lane, as that car is running down in 8th place then after that slow pit stop. Vanthoor and Ramos now running in 8th position overall. That is a real shame for them. The defending champion, Laurens Vanthoor, but things are not working out for him this season. The gap at the front down to 1.2 seconds, so it came down by 4 tenths on that last lap. Then we've got Racina running fairly lonely in 3rd position. Then it's all kicking off behind Enzo Ede. We're on board with Matthias Stumpf down into Tarzan. Salaquada getting out of shape.
Yeah, again late on the brakes down the inside, defending from the BMW just behind, but also looking to make a move on Enzo Ede. And Felipe Salaquada, you have to believe, is going to get impatient, and the longer he stays behind the Audi, the more frustrated he's going to become. Enzo Ede takes the wide entry into the Hugenholz-Hairpin bend, looking for more traction there. Salaquada pushes on the more traditional line, maintains the gap. And as we go up now into Skyflook, this long, very exciting right-hand corner that folds away in a sort of slightly adverse camber, then you get into a more banked exit, caught the inside of the Skyflook corner. So Salaquada really driving cat-like, just hanging on there with his fingernails.
Top speed of 257.6 kilometers an hour on lap 8 of the race. They'll be doing very different sort of speeds in these conditions, as they don't have the traction coming out of the final corner to give them that real slingshot down the straight. Pit window is now closed, but everyone made their pit stop windows at the same time.
Now the question is, it looks to me as if the rain has actually stopped. We've got 24 minutes of this race remaining. The track is pretty wet most of the way around, but with 19 cars on track, all on wet weather tires, you're going to get somewhere before the end of this race a line that is a drying line. Drivers are going to have to then go very thoughtful and defensive and start looking for the wet patches around the racetrack. Not going to be an issue right now, because they're still looking for the grippier parts of the racetrack rather than looking for a part of the racetrack to keep the tires cool.
Salaquada has had to go from attack to defence there in 5th position, because Matthias Stumpf is now closer to him than he is to Enzo Ede. Enzo Ede got away by some 0.4 seconds. Stumpf's going, I thought he was going in far too hot there, but he did manage to get it stopped. And this is a great battle going on as they come now towards the right-hand kink of Galachbox, then into Hugenholz. And this is all allowing, at the back of this queue, Cesar Ramos in the number 1 Audi, the car that was running in 2nd position. He, in 8th place, is now on the back of this queue and can ultimately see 4th position.
Yeah, and we've got 23 minutes of the race remaining. A lot is going to take place. There will be changes of position And this group of cars, which is being led by Enzo Ede in 4th place, under pressure from Philippe Salaquada, under pressure from Matthias Stumpf, and Dominic Baumann following in the 4th. And then you've now got Cesar Ramos, who is a 5-car battle ultimately for the 4th place overall. And people looking for one part of the racetrack, principally defensively at this stage, but they'll be looking for the damp patches of this racetrack when we get into the closing minutes. Pass up the inside, I think, was that? No, I remember Baumann just being defensive, keeping Ramos from thinking about making a move up the inside.
So we saw Caca Bueno on the pit wall, urging on his Brazilian teammates. This could be a move here from Cesar Ramos, but no. Thomas Jaeger covers the inside line. Nothing he can do about it there.
The difference, the inside line, it's really difficult to get traction because you're going to wheel spin. Staying high, as we watch Cesar Ramos doing, will offer up a little bit more bite on the exit of the corner. Side by side.
Fabio Anidi and Mateusz Lozowski doing battle over 12th position. Lozowski in the Audi trying to get past and has got past now. So that's 12th place overall for Lozowski. But now here comes Cesar Ramos back to the battle for 7th place. Covering the inside is Jaeger. Ramos looks to the outside but is unable to get past. And still Jaeger holds that position at the moment. 7th place overall, 16 seconds off the lead of the race. Harry Procek has continued to build up his lead, and it's now 2 seconds between Procek and Gotts. I'm surprised Stefan Rosina hasn't been able to come with them. I thought he'd be getting a little more involved in the fight, but he's actually all alone in that 3rd position.
It'll basically come down to how each individual car has been set up. Maybe the Reiter Lamborghini has gone, and obviously both Lamborghinis are with a dry setup, but there's variations within that dry setup, and you have the option before the race starts to think, well, if it might well rain, maybe we want to soften off some of the roll bars just to give the car that little bit more compliance, not make it so twitchy or nervy. As again, very defensive from the Jaeger in the BMW, trying to hold off South American Cesar Ramos. Looks up there, or Portuguese I should say. Cesar Ramos has a look at an attempt up into turn 11, but it's not going to be possible.
No, you're right, first time he's Brazilian, Cesar Ramos, and he was on the team with all the other BMW Team Brazil guys in the football match that was taking place, when was that? Day before yesterday here, on Friday. And the Brazilians certainly had some skill. Caca Bueno especially, very skillful.
How many uppies can he do?
We lost count.
So this battle is sort of status quo at the minute. The principal threat is going to come from Cesar Ramos. If he can get a good run off the Ari Luyendyk curve, try and get under the wing of the BMW, who's pretty close. He might have a look down the inside, but the BMW will defend. He's now having to go out to the left, looks for the high road around the tires and happen now. Can he now drop the Audi back down? He's not able to find the grip to do so. So again, frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap at the front has come down to 1.7 seconds, so Max Gotts was quick on that last lap. But still, that's a reasonably comfortable margin for Harry Procek with less than 20 minutes to go here in Zandvoort. 3rd round of the Blancpain Sprint Series. This is the qualifying race that will decide the main race for tomorrow. As they flash now through the S's, through the dunes, up towards Skyflock. And they've both closed in now on Matthias Stumpf again, so the gap's really ebbing and flowing all over the place, because Stumpf a minute ago was right on the back of the Ferrari, and now he's under all sorts of pressure from the BMW behind. So Stumpf in that yellow BMW Team Brazil car is under a lot of pressure, and here's a look up the inside. That's just...
Oh, he tags him, he tags the back of the... So the Brazil Stumpf has been tagged at the back by Thomas Jaeger, and there it is.
And I think Cesar Ramos came through to take both of them. He looks to the inside line. Jaeger holds it all the way around the outside, keeps the grip there and holds the place. But good spot there, John. And because that's the line we've seen Jaeger take every time into that corner. But then all of a sudden there was a car there that he had to contend.
Yeah, I mean, people take a very late line into turn, I think it's like turn 12. That's the natural line, but if you go up early and take a very early apex, you can plant your car where the Brazilian BMW was about to land his. Rain is falling again, and it's probably falling even more heavily than it did at any point since this race got underway.
Yeah,
look at Cesar Ramos almost alongside, coming through the Ari Luyendyk curve. side by side, never been as close as this with the BMW at any point, and he's got the inside line this time rather than trying the long way around the outside.
No, this is Stefan Racina and Enzo Eid that is going side by side here. Enzo Eid has just taken third place away from Stefan Racina. It's so difficult to tell in all this rain that's coming down, but yeah, it was Enzo Eid who'd got the inside line on Stefan Racina, and it is pelting it down now.
I would not be surprised if the rain continues like this for one more lap that they're going to have to put the safety car out, because it's falling so heavily and the racetrack is absolutely saturated. Visibility plus all the dangers now of water running across the track, which it is prone to do at Zandvoort, where you'll get rivulets flowing and you will end up having aquaplaning being the principal problem. There was the tag on the back of the Brazilian BMW from Thomas Jäger, and that will be looked at by the race stewards. It may be deemed to be nothing more than a racing incident. There's the BMW, turns in, watch for the bang in the back. There we go. Now there was room on the inside. Wasn't a lot of room, but there was room. So I think that'll be deemed as a racing incident.
So there is Matej Stump still lapping, but down in 9th place now. Lost out to Alessandro Latifi as well, who managed to get through up into 8th position. And Harry Procek is driving beautifully. He's taken a second out of Max Goetz in the first sector alone.
Yeah, but the problem that all the drivers are going to be confronting now is simply it's going to be aquaplaning. The rain's still falling as heavily as it's done now for 2 laps, and in that space of that time, the volume of water that's fallen is massive.
Across the line they come. They were doing 54s on the last lap. This lap is at 2 minutes, so 5 seconds slower on that last lap than they were on the previous tour. The gap is down to 1.4 seconds because that second that Procek built up in sector 1 was taken out of him in the 3rd sector by Max Goetz. So really challenging, and the safety car has been deployed. They have decided to scramble the safety car, presumably because of these conditions, and the rain has, well, it's eased off actually briefly now for the moment.
I mean, if you look down the straight, I mean, that's looking up towards Zandvoort town. You can actually see some of the high-rise buildings there, so it is actually improving. The safety car might have been maybe more beneficially deployed a lap or maybe 2 laps earlier at the point when it came down at its heaviest. Big shot Ferrari!
And that may be why the safety car's deployed, because in the gravel trap is Stefan Racina and Felipe Salaquada. The two appear to have come together because there's front right damage on the Ferrari. And where is that? That's down at the chicane, isn't it?
Down at the right-left turns 13 and 14.
The Hans-Ernst Bosch.
Yeah.
And that will be, I imagine, why the safety car was deployed, because the rain itself is getting better. I'm sure if they could hear me on the banks, they'd disagree. But
well, it's virtually stopped now. But clearly that was the cause of the safety car deployment. So safety car deployment underway. Contact reported between cars 30 and 76 under investigation. So all that for the stewards to look at. And that's the danger in these conditions. It's not just a visibility problem, it's just the volume of water, standing water, and particularly on the racetrack where you get water running diagonally across. You don't see it, you hit it, you float, you lose all braking, steering, all traction, and there is the Ferrari buried up to its axles almost in that gravel. So one of the McLarens is in. I don't know what that's for, because the pit window is closed and it's...
That's maybe a problem for Fabio Onidi, who crashed that car at Skyflock on Friday, which caused an awful lot of work for the Bytec squad to deal with. Not quite as strong a weekend here as they had in Brands Hatch for Bytec McLaren. But here are first and second place men about to pick up behind the safety car. Harry Procek leading the way, Max Goetz behind. Enzo Eid we saw up into 3rd place. And that's one of the, I think that's Iman Ibrahim who's come into the pits in the Fortec Mercedes.
If the purpose for the safety car is to remove those 2 cars from the gravel trap, we're seeing the Ferrari being literally dragged away. So that'll be out of harm's way in a few moments, but then they've got to get back and get to the Lamborghini and remove it. So we're still going to have another maybe 5 minutes of safety car, which is going to bring this race, if it gets restarted, which it no doubt will, it'll be about 8 minutes, 7 minutes to go from the point when the safety car returns to the pit lane. It's going to be very tense for Harry Procek, for Maximilian Goetz, And Enzo Weed, he's going to be in the tail of this group of cars as well.
So they're up into 4th place then is Cesar Ramos. After all that catastrophe that they encountered at the pit stop, they are now back relatively into contention, up in 4th place, and I'm sure Enzo Weed would happily move over, or maybe not happily, but would be comfortably persuaded by his team to move over for his teammate as we go on board with Matthias Stumpf, now down in 7th place then. So, and behind him is the Porsche of Robert Renauer, who we haven't actually seen much of. Then Roman Rusinov has made it up into 9th position in the car that Ortelli started from the pit lane. Mateusz Lasowski is in 10th place there in that Audi. In 11th place is the first McLaren, Fabio Anidi, despite that pit stop actually, so that's quite interesting. 12th place for Sasha Halleck. Then we've got Armani Ibrahim, Stem Pentus, and David Fuminelli completing our 15 runners.
Just gives you an indication of the complexities of the interior of a Group 3 GT car, on top of which you've got 3 cameras on board, just giving us the images from all the various angles, both of the driver, of what's going on ahead, and it just highlights all the elements of what are very, very tricky conditions, which have now passed. The sky's beginning to brighten up.
Let's go to the beach.
There's almost a bit of blue. There's almost a bit of blue out to the west of the racetrack.
Contact between cars 88, so Racina and Salaquada. The stewards have already decided there will be no further action taken, so that's interesting. So these are the standings behind the safety car. Then a second, well, the gaps obviously don't make any difference. It's the Project leading, got second, Eads third, Ramos fourth, 5th place for Thomas Jaeger in the 76 Schubert BMW. That's really, really good news for them as we look at some of the cars that are they're just well behind, trying to catch up the safety car queue.
No, they are. I mean, they're basically, well, they're a third of a lap behind, so they will be on the tail of this train of cars by the time I suspect they get down to the Tarzan hairpin, or maybe a little bit further on, but it'll not be very long before the whole field is queuing up behind the safety car. And I'm assuming that the Lamborghini of Rosina has been removed pretty promptly by the marshals here at Zandvoort. So we're waiting to see when the safety car is deemed to be coming back into the pits. We're just coming up to 10 minutes of this race remaining, which is going to be in these conditions around about 5, probably at most 5 laps, running mostly 2-minute laps in the wet weather. Once the track begins to improve, it might drop down into a high 50, but we're probably looking at, from the point of the safety car going in, maximum 5 laps of racing.
So leading the race is Harry Procek in the 28 Grasser Racing Lamborghini, the 38-year-old Austrian who was born and grew up in Nittelfeld in Austria, which is just by the old, what was the Österreich Ring, now exists as the Red Bull Ring. He started racing, he was actually part of the Red Bull Junior team back in the late 90s in Formula Koenig, but then he stopped and became a businessman and got involved in motorsport in a sort of a business level, and then returned to racing properly in GTs in 2011, and now he's leading the way. And behind him, chasing him, is Maximilian Goetz, the winner of the Spa 24-hour last year, the winner of the Nürburgring 1000 last year, the man who was the ADAC Formula BMW champion in 2003, and he beat Sebastian Vettel to do it. So a very quick man in second place, and then we've got Enzo Eid and Cesar Ramos in third and fourth. So a really lively final 9 minutes, I think, will be in for. Well, it might be less because we haven't heard that the safety car will be coming in this lap yet.
No indication yet, so we're going to have less than 5 laps because we're now into 9 minutes of this race remaining as the marshals continue to brush around the apexes to try and get most of the standing water down the drainage systems that are on each corner. Big advantage Harry Procek will have is will be in clear visibility, and everyone behind, even Maximilian Goetz with only one car, it will just be a slight frustration. But further down the field, from third all the way back down to the bottom of the field, it's going to be pretty dire on the opening lap once the safety car comes in.
So let's try and spot here. Yeah, they're still towing it away.
Well, they haven't even got the tow truck to it, let alone to tow it away. That's just one of the other vehicles is there to provide the cleaning up, the brushes and the spades and whatever they need. So I wonder, I hope not, that we're going to see this race be released for at least one or not two flying laps. Where the Lamborghini is, it needs to be pulled away, and that's going to be a minute or two for the truck to get to the car, then attach the tow straps to it, and then remove it. So 7 minutes and 55 seconds, and still no sign of the safety car coming into the pit lane.
So after this we move on to the Slovakia ring, just outside of Bratislava, then the Algarve in Portugal, the wonderful Portimao circuit, Zolder in September, and then finishing off the season in Baku on the streets of Azerbaijan. A superb event last year, and hopefully it'll be just as entertaining and as exciting this time around. So that is the remaining 4 rounds still to go of the Blancpain Sprint Series. Of course, the Blancpain Endurance Series continuing as well. Alongside, there are some competitors competing for the overall crown, and we've got the Spa 24-hour coming up there at the end of July, and so that'll be one to watch out for as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a magnificent event, and you know, most popular probably of all the 24-hour races anywhere in the world on the famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That's what they've decided to do. They're towing the Lamborghini. They're not putting it behind the safety barriers. They're towing it, and I don't know where they're going to tow it to, because I suppose back to the paddock is the best option that they've got. And now 6.5 minutes of the race remaining. Whereabouts is the safety car? Again, no information on screen to indicate the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap.
Well, that's up at Skyflock, so surely now the circuit should be clear and the lights can come off, because we've seen both the cars have now been removed. Unless there's something lurking that we haven't spotted, it looks as though the track is clear. So we hope to get note from race control almost imminently that the safety car will be coming in. So with 6 minutes to go, it'll be 2 or 3 laps left in this race. But they've got to, well, they haven't told them yet, so you've got to give the drivers enough time. You can't just pull in at the last minute and go, oh yeah, by the way, I'm coming in this lap.
No, I mean, they would ordinarily, once the safety car deployment is complete, the safety car lights would be switched off in the first sector of the circuit and allow all the drivers then the preparation that they need to get back into that race mode, take the cruise chip out of the brain, put the race chip back in again, and don't confuse the two. And that all takes, again, a certain amount of time, and 5.5 minutes to go. Still wave yellow flags all around the circuit. Nothing on screen as far as we are concerned indicating, and again, look at the back of the circuit, how much cloud still surrounds the Zandvoort circuit.
So around they come, and surely now this will be to start the final lap.
I think the lights are out.
No, they're still flashing, I think.
I got the back view of it. Maybe the front view is flashing, but let's wait and see what's happening.
Safety car still on circuit here, yes, but hopefully this will be for the. Oh, there we go. There's a rescue. Oh, maybe the rescue truck has got to get back to its position. It's got
to get back to its station, and that's going to take another 35 or 40 seconds. If the guy's anyway good behind the steering wheel, then probably he's just like everybody else who drives. He's only average.
So through the left-hander they come. And he's gone purple in sector 1, the fire truck.
That's his face. He's gone puce. The danger is that this field of cars behind the safety car might actually catch him up and overtake him.
So safety car in this lap, which is good news, clearly, and I think that'll give us 2 laps of racing, most likely.
Yeah, I think 2 laps is going to be, it's going to be close, because it's 4 minutes at this point. They're still not a third of the way around the racetrack, so coming out of the Hugenholtz hairpin bend, tense. Look at the stress and tension on the face of Jerome Blancpain, and he knows this is where this race can be lost. They've done all they can and have been winning it all the way through, but they could lose it with just 3.5 minutes to go, and we're still under safety car.
And I think Max Goetz will be very keen to try and get past.
I think we're only going to see 1 racing lap. I don't think I'd be surprised if they get back across the start-finish line.
They've got to get back in the next minute and 20 seconds. they've got to cross the line to get 2 laps underway.
It should be okay. It's going to be very, very close. They'll go on to the final lap with seconds rather than minutes. That's for certain.
In fact, well, you might not actually be too far off actually, because we're about to tap down to 3 minutes. We'll wait and see as they come towards the end of the race. But Max Goetz, I think, will want to get past, because okay, you can sort of settle in and take second place, but that means you start second on the grid for the race tomorrow on a circuit that's very difficult to overtake on, and that's what the problem they had in Brands Hatch, and they won't want to avoid that again, because if that result happens again, they'll lose the lead in the championship.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It is about a championship battle. So do you settle for second place, take the slightly less favourable grid position, but then try and consolidate or take the lead for the maximum points in the championship race? Or do you roll the dice? I mean, most racing drivers are going to roll the dice, because they think for the moment, not necessarily for what's going to happen tomorrow. They can't control at this stage what's tomorrow going to bring. But look how close, look how close.
Now, is he slowing down so that he only has 1 lap to go, Harry Project? Potentially, he's trying to get across the line to start the final lap when he comes through, and I think he might pull it off, and this is going to be very tight, but he hasn't got a very good restart. Here comes Max Goetz. He looks to the inside line as they come across the line with 2 minutes to go. We've got 1 or 2 laps left here in Zandvoort. We'll wait for official confirmation, but Harry Project leads the way. Max Goetz is right with him. Laurens Vanthoor is trying to go around the outside. Cesar Ramos is trying to go around the outside of Enzo Eid for 3rd position, and he does it at Tarzan. Beautiful manoeuvre. He drops to 4th. 5th place is Thomas Jaeger. 6th now is Alessandro Latifi. He's got past the Brazilian BMW. But how? So many questions. Is this the final lap of the race? Is the sort of main one?
Well, we don't know. We're waiting to see, but no indication that this is the last. They came across the start-finish line literally with 2 minutes remaining, and they ought to be able to complete a lap within that 2 minutes.
Yeah, because it's not raining as hard as it was before. It's not raining,
but it's going to be something like a 1:57 or 1:58. It could be a 2-minute lap, depending how quickly Harry Project brings the car out onto that straight. So it's a great pressure on the Austrian driver right now, with Max Goetz all over the back.
Really close behind him. Here we go then, and Max Goetz in the Mercedes that's leading the championship, desperate to try and find a way past the Austrian leading the race, which is Harry Project for the Grasser Racing team. Here they come, down towards the chicane. Not close enough yet, Max Goetz, as they come into the right-hander, but Project knows he has got to defend for all he's worth, and has he gone wide then? Not quite, I thought he had.
He took the defensive line, but in doing so he almost put himself into jeopardy, and that almost gave an opportunity for Maximilian Goetz to put the pressure, but he didn't manage to do anything. Now all he can hope for is a good exit out of the second of these 2 right-hand corners onto the pit straight. But 17 seconds, we're going to have 1 more lap in my view. As we come across, and there the gap is around about 0.6, 0.7 of a second. 8, 7, so we've got 1 more lap. 1 more lap of pressure and torture on Jerome Blancpain.
But Project's doing a good job. He's got 0.8 of a second as he comes around Tarzan corner. As they come through the left hand. Oh, and in the gravel trap, that's Matthias Stumpf. He's off at Tarzan. There's damage on the front of the car, but we think that might have already been there. But I just saw him disappearing out of the back of the camera shot. But here's our race leader, Harry Project, leading the way as he did in Brands Hatch. This win will give him and Jeroen Bleekemolen pole position for the main race tomorrow. That's where all the points are to be won, or the majority of the points are to be won, but Max Goetz is pushing. Turn 9, down into the tight right-hander of turn 10. It's almost a hairpin, and look how close Max Goetz gets through that corner. Really strong through there. He swings it wide into turn 10 to try and get the cut back. He's not going to be, whoa, he is pretty close actually, and they almost touch there, absolutely nose to bumper as they come down to the chicane. Goetz on the outside. Project gets the car stopped in time. Only 1 corner for Max Goetz to do it. I don't think he'll be able to though. It's not really an overtaking opportunity. Harry Project looks to hold on. The nerves are unbelievable in the Grasser Racing garage, but through the Arie Luyendyk corner they come, and it is going to be the win for Harry Projik and Jeroen Bleekemolen here in Zandvoort. They win the qualifying race. It's second place for Max Coates, it's third for Cesar Ramos, fourth for Enzo Eid, fifth for Thomas Jaeger. Brilliant performance from him. Seventh across the line. We'll wait and see. It should be Sten Pentus, and it is Sten Pentus. But there's Jeroen Bleekemolen, another win at his home circuit. But that may well have been one of the most tense. And what a dramatic end to the race. Did Max Coates lose his best opportunity coming down into the first corner off the safety car restart? Was that the moment? This also means the gap at the top of the standings is now down to just 6 points. So if this result is repeated tomorrow, Projik and Bleekemolen will take the lead of the championship. But that's a big if, because we've still got a 1 hour race to come tomorrow. Make sure you join us for it. We go on air with the main race at 11:30 local time. So tomorrow morning. But what an excellent race that was. Drama all the way, and well, Projik I think will be relieved that the safety car stayed out for as long as it did. And there, still revving the wheels, is Matej Stumpf. He's going to finish in 12th place then. Great result for Sten Pentus and Daniel Lloyd in 7th position. Obviously a lot of that is because of the dramas for other competitors. But nevertheless, strong performance from Pentus, and he will start there tomorrow. The drivers that finish this race will start again that race tomorrow. And now, there's no one near him, was there? As he went off there into the gravel trap, it didn't look as though. No, there was. It didn't look like there was anyone near Matej Stumpf when he spun into the gravel. So that damage was, as we mentioned, from earlier on, and we're not sure where that damage came about. So a few mysteries remain. In fact, he lost positions off the start, Matej Stumpf, as they came across the line. So I wonder if he's, I'm obviously hypothesizing, but perhaps gone into the back of someone under the safety car. But Jeroen Bleekemolen and Harry Projik take the win. We can now hear from Jeroen Bleekemolen. He's with John Watson.
Jeroen, congratulations. What a tense 1 hour that's been.
Oh yeah, it was so tight with the going green again, but Harry did a great job. He was very fast in the rain, and he'd never been here in the wet, so yeah, hats off to him. He did a great job today. I had a really good first stint as well. Unfortunately, my gap was done by the safety car, but it's great to win again.
Well, you had to drive on a saturated track on wet weather tyres, dry weather tyres, but you also cleverly judged the point at which you came in to make your mandatory pit stop for tyres. It looked like you actually slowed down deliberately to avoid doing an extra lap.
Yeah, I knew I was crossing the line with 2:20 to go, 2 minutes 20 seconds. So I knew I had to do a 2:20 lap time, and I had to slow down a little bit in the last corner. But we made it, and we even still had a gap to the rest. So it was the perfect way to go.
So how much were the pits guiding you in, or were you just doing it freehand?
I was doing it myself, but then the last 10 seconds they counted down for me, so that helped a little bit.
Anyway, congratulations. We're doing a Harry Projik to come back. Superb drive by both you. Appalling conditions towards the end of the race.
Yeah, we've been here before in these conditions. The track is very hard to drive, and it's the safety car came out. It was a good decision. It was maybe for the crash, but anyway, I think they should have put the safety car in at that point because it was very tricky. But it dries very quick as well, because now you can nearly use slicks again.
What is it about Zandvoort? Because it's a great racetrack. Is it standing water, or is it the way the water flows across the circuit that catches drivers out?
Yeah, if too much water falls down, it's just the water can't drain away. So then you get big puddles of water and aquaplaning, and then it's very tough. But again, it's if you have no rain for 10 minutes, it can be slick weather again.
Now listen, you've talked a lot about weather. You know this place. You were born here. I think you could have been actually literally born at the circuit. What's the weather going to bring on Sunday? Because obviously you're on pole position for the feature race, the championship race. You want to be certain as to what you have to face.
Yeah, well, dry would be nice. I think dry is more fun for everyone to drive, for the fans as well. But it looks like we'll have rain tomorrow again. But I was wrong today because I thought we would have a dry race. So yeah, maybe you shouldn't listen to me for the predictions.
Now you've done a lot of work coaching with Harry Project. I mean, he's got to be the best pupil you've ever had.
Yeah, he's done such a good 2 races. I mean, Brands Hatch was fantastic, and now under these conditions, I know how tough it was. And with Maxi behind him pushing hard, was really good.
Well, we better go and find Harry somewhere. I haven't always come back into the pit lane. Anyway, congratulations, Jerome.
Thank you.
The intrepid John Watson down in the pits, and they're all now going to head up to the podium. There's Gottfried Grasser getting a little handshake. But here's the results of the qualifying race here at Zandvoort. Harry Project and Jeroen Bleekemolen winning by only 0.4 of a second ahead of Max Buch and Max Goetz. Cesar Ramos and Laurens Vanthoor saved their own day, really, because a really slow pit stop put them down in 8th, but Ramos hauled them back up into 3rd position. Enzo Eid 4th, Baumann and Jaeger in 5th position, and then Renault and Jaap van Lager finishing in 6th place. Nice to see the Porsche finishing so high up. Same can be said as well of Sten Pentus and Daniel Lloyd. Retirements-wise, we had the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini of Racina and Cox end up in the gravel trap alongside Philippe Salaquade. We also saw Marcus Finkelhock end his race in the gravel trap. Stef Dusseldorp and Sergio Jimenez also retired in the early stages. Well, those wet tyres came in handy today. Hopefully we won't need them as much tomorrow, but the forecast suggests we may do. It's all a bit hit and miss though. It's just showery here at Zandvoort. It's not been like a whole day of rain. It's just been occasional showers here and there. And the marshals now get to work clearing up the track ahead of the next on-track action. A good start from Jeroen Bleekemolen. He held the lead coming down into the first corner. There was a bit of contact which with the side of Sergio Jimenez, and that ultimately put the Brazilian BMW out of the race. Through Tarzan they came, and the battle was on for 2nd position. René Rast desperate to get past Vanthoor, but wasn't able to do so. Here's a replay of the contact for Jimenez, and that put him out of the race. The Ferrari managed to continue, but would later retire. Peter Cox made a very, very, very rare mistake, and that lost him a couple of places. Dominic Baumann was on a charge, forcing his way past the 30 BMW. And then the Royal BMW ended up in the gravel trap. Stefano Colombo losing the back end. But up at the front, Jeroen Bleekemolen was in a class of his own, starting to pull clear. But then the rain started to come down, and that allowed Stef Dusseldorp to force his way past Mark Basseng. Marcus Finkelhock then was really on a charge in the treacherous conditions, but he ended up charging a little too hard and finding himself in the gravel trap on the exit of Skyflock. Safety car came out to remove that, but all the cars came into the pits at one point. And then on the restart of the race, Stefan Racina attacked and managed to pass Max Goetz, but Goetz fought back and retook that 2nd position a little later on. Racina would end up out of the race. There were some good battles between Thomas Jaeger and Matthias Stump. There was also Vincent Abril challenging Fabio Anidi and getting past into turn 10. Caco Bueno out of the race, but he still kept his spirits up. Matthias Stump was tapped into a spin by Jaeger after their battle. This was the onboard of that, as he comes sent spinning around. And then we had Racina and Salaquade presumably coming together, and then at the restart it was so close for Max Goetz to try and get past Project for the lead. He didn't manage to do it. Around the outside at Tarzan though went Laurens Vanthoor, a brilliant manoeuvre from the Belgian, and he took a place. And then on the final lap into the gravel trap went Matthias Stump, an eventful race for him. But Harry Project and Jeroen Bleekemolen take the race win. Grasser with an explosion of delight as they cross the line, and it's a wonderful performance. They'll start on pole position for the main race.
Well, I tell you, Jeroen Bleekemolen relieved and happy at the same time, and a great drive by both drivers. Those conditions, when they were out on slick tyres, to try and balance the lap time, using the pit stop window to their advantage, I mean, that's an outstanding bit of professional motor racing from a great racing driver, backed up by Harry Project, who is not what you would describe as a professional racing driver, but an exceptionally gifted one, who did a stunning job in difficult conditions, always under pressure from Max Goetz. And one little wrong move from the Lamborghini driver would have seen the Mercedes take victory. And Max Book, when I was talking to Jerome Bleekemolen, came up and patted him on the back and said, good job, well done.
The Austrian national anthem for the Austrian Grasser racing team, but a home win as well for your own Bleekemolen. Menno Fieder, the race series coordinator here at Zandvoort, hands out the trophies to third place finishers. Eric Weijers handing out the second place trophies to Max Goetz and Max Book, who have seen their championship lead cut to just 6 points. Huub Doubelman, president of the KNAF, hands the trophies though to the winners. Harry Project and Jeroen Bleekemolen taking victory. And another impressive performance from an impressive pairing, and Gottfried Grasser receiving the team's award. And it's an impressive team compared to some of the teams they're racing against. Budget-wise and facility-wise, they're not in the same league.
Well, you don't have to be big or fat or whatever, fat rich-wise I'm talking about, to be successful. It's about smart management, choosing good people, doing a good job. And I mean, in terms of what the team did, they couldn't have done a better job. In terms of what the two drivers did in exceptionally difficult conditions, outstanding performance. And it's always for me a pleasure to see. You might describe the Grosser team or the Grosser Lamborghini team as the underdog in some respects, because they're not this big conglomerate, and they're punching way above their weight, and they've won 3 consecutive races in a row. And it's going to take a tough decision to say they are going to be beaten or can be beaten. Of course they can be beaten, but with their performance and their confidence high, with a car that's good in the wet, good in the dry, Jeroen Bleekemolen suggested that we may have more rain tomorrow. So, they're looking in a very, very comfortable position, on pole position for Sunday's championship race.
So they make their way out the back of the podium, and a handshake between Grasser and Max Goetz. And was that his best chance, Max Goetz, off the safety car restart? Could he have done more, or is it not worth risking contact?
It's a bit of both. I mean, as I said in the commentary live, you can either go for it and take the risk. The risk and the reward are something you've got to assess. He had a little look, but it wasn't a look of conviction. And I think that Max Goetz probably thought the better of it. And I'm sure Max Book would also agree it's better to start in the front row of the grid with an assured front row start than attempt a dodgy maneuver which could have certainly maybe taken out the Lamborghini, but take out yourself as well. And the consequence, the points for this race are very small in relative terms to the championship race on Sunday. Therefore, do the right thing.
The Silver Cup podium sees Vincent Abril and Mateusz Lisowski on the top step. Second place for Mani Ibrahim and Miguel Toril. And then over on the right-hand side, we have David Fuminelli and Stefano Colombo. And we have the national anthem for our Silver Cup winners. The podium and national anthems completed for our Silver Cup winners. The Silver Cup for silver-rated drivers under the age of 25, so it's an attempt essentially to bring more young racers into GT racing, which is happening more and more, but this gives them an incentive, something to be a part of, where they're not a pro pairing, they're not a pro-am pairing, but they're two young up-and-coming racers. And a lot of drivers these days are discovering that actually there's a lot more points spending your money going racing in GTs. So Vincent Abril and Mateusz Zizowski taking the win in the Silver Cup. They'll get a nice chunk of prize money as well for that as they take victory. But it's Jeroen Bleekemolen and Harry Procek who are the winners overall. Join us for the main race tomorrow.